All right, welcome. My name is Will Moss. I'm the CEO of HBCU Connect. We are here this evening or this afternoon, depending on where you're logged in from, but we're here to learn about opportunities with JPMorgan Chase and specifically in the marketing centers of excellence there at the company. But we really are excited because this is a special event where you're going to hear from some of the diverse professionals that work on the JPMorgan Chase team. What they do, a little bit about their background, and they have taken the time out to share their experiences, their background with you all to learn more. And then also we have some folks from the HR team and the recruiting team here to answer your questions, to talk about the opportunities, and we're just going to engage and take advantage of this opportunity. I like to say at these events, you're in the right place at the right time, so welcome. All right, let's go ahead and get started. First thing I like to do is I like to share the agenda so that you all know what we're going to cover. So I'm going to do a brief welcome to give you some background on HBCU Connect in case this is your first time attending one of our events. So you know what we do and what the purpose is. Also a little bit of background on our partnership with JPMorgan Chase, and then the opportunity for you this evening. So I'm super excited because we've got over 90 people logged into the call. So super excited for the opportunity for you all to join. All right, so second thing we're going to do is we're going to meet the team. So I'm going to introduce you to 4 of the team members from JPMorgan Chase that are going to introduce themselves, talk a little bit about their background and their journey or path to JPMorgan Chase, what they currently do at JPMorgan Chase. We'll have a conversation there. So this will be a good opportunity for you to learn who you're speaking with, not only for networking purposes, but for you to then ask questions, because if you hear from a comment or something that someone does, or maybe about their background that may resonate with you, that's your opportunity to kind of take a note so that we can have that Q&A and have some questions and get the most out of this event. All right, so you're going to meet all of the panelists and the team members from JPMorgan Chase that are here this evening. Then we're going to get into a panel discussion. So I prepared some questions sort of as an advocate for you all as potential job seekers or candidates for these opportunities. I prepared some questions that I'm going to ask our panelists to give you all a little bit better background on the culture at the company, a little bit better background on what it's like to work there, and then what the opportunities are. And then I'm going to open it up for you all to ask questions and engage as well. So we'll have a moderated live Q&A so that you all, for taking the time out to be here with us, you all have that opportunity to engage. And then we'll adjourn with next steps, right? So we can really get into that opportunity for you. Now, if you're just now joining us, don't forget to please network in the chat, introduce yourself, maybe a little bit about who you are, and then drop a link to your LinkedIn profile in the chat. We would highly appreciate that, because we will share the chat with the JPMorgan Chase team so they can check out your LinkedIn profile. But let me get into a little bit of background, right? So let's set the context. What are we doing here at this event? So first of all, like I said, my name is Will Moss. I'm the CEO of HBCU Connect. We started doing these events because we partner with so many different companies that are looking for diverse talent to bring into their company for opportunities either after graduation or internships or full-time career opportunities, right? So we work with so many different companies, and the conversations started to come about around, hey, it's great that we're driving traffic to job opportunities online, right? Everybody knows about, you can go to a website, you can go and apply for jobs online, but what about engaging and connecting and meeting the team, right? So you might know about a company and their brand and what they do from a distance, but have you ever met anyone from their team? And have you ever heard from anyone from their team? And then have you ever had a conversation that led to a productive, productive conversation that led to an interview? Right, where they know a little bit more about you, you know a little bit more about them, and then you can go into that interview ready and prepared to put your best foot forward. So we started having those conversations, and we said, hey, why don't we do some events to make these connections happen? And the rest was history. So we started doing events roughly 10 years ago. Most of them, like I said earlier, were in person. COVID-19 hit, and we started to pivot to doing the events online. So kudos to JPMorgan Chase, because instead of canceling some of the events that they had with us that were in person, once COVID-19 hit, we pivoted to do those events online, and plenty of people have been hired from these events. So what I'm really excited about And the opportunity for you is, like I said, you're in the right place at the right time, because you're going to have the opportunity to learn more about JPMorgan Chase, learn more about their opportunities, and then take advantage and take action. And they will be looking for your applications and looking to connect with you to make those hires happen. So you're in the right place at the right time if you want to learn more and potentially land an opportunity with JPMorgan Chase. Okay, so let's transition into meeting the team. So I'm going to introduce you to each team member that's volunteered their time to meet you, to talk a little bit more about their experiences. So first up, let me introduce Anita Allison, who's the Vice President, Owned Media Channel Marketing Lead. So Anita, if you're ready.
Yes. Hi, everyone. So I am based in Columbus, Ohio. Go Buckeyes. And I have been at Chase for a bit more than 12 years. I actually started at Chase directly after undergrad. So I came right over. I began my career in telephone banking, basically the hello, what's my balance? That was me. And I went into technology and I found out that I actually like technology, which was really cool. And so I've had opportunities to work throughout Chase. I currently work in marketing as a channel strategy lead for testing. So basically, anytime there's an ad that shows up on chase.com, I support the testing that goes into making sure that it works for customers. As part of my side gig at Chase, I also support the DE&I initiatives within the firm. What that means is I get to put on events, host events, and support DE&I culture throughout the firm. That is the main reason why I stayed with Chase, outside of the fact that I kind of grew up here. So I love it for that reason too. And I look forward to learning more about everyone. Thank you.
So Anita, if I may, love to follow up with some questions about sort of your story and your path, if that's okay.
Yes, definitely.
So are you originally from Columbus, Ohio?
Yes, I've never left.
So I'm also from Columbus, Ohio. So it's always great to see another person there. And for me personally, so this is going to be like a little bit of a sales pitch, right? So for me personally, I could work anywhere, and take HBCU Connect anywhere in the United States, but went off to Hampton University, but I decided to come back and live and work from Columbus, Ohio. So let me ask you, since you work out of Columbus, Ohio, what keeps you in Columbus, Ohio? And what would be your pitch to someone considering an opportunity at JPMorgan Chase in Columbus?
So first off, I love Columbus. The cost of living is awesome. I visited other places, and I feel like we get the right feel of city and small town. Chase is actually one of the largest employers in the city of Columbus. And so for me, career-wise, almost every single business or function within the Chase firm has a location in Columbus. That is really great for me because, again, I've moved around a bit and tried different groups and different roles. So just having like a wide open buffet of roles and responsibilities has made it really cool. And even our in-person events, I feel like a lot of people have like a great, I don't know, like just the persona. They're just better people. So I also love that part.
So let me ask you this. So you've been at Chase for roughly 12 years. So my question is, what keeps you there at JPMorgan Chase?
So part of it is I get to do the things that make me happy. So DE&I is something that I care a lot about. I went to a PWI, a predominantly white institution for college. And it was like mostly white. So it's 80% of the people there were white or non-minorities. So for me, just recognizing that Black people belong in the high places and that they deserve a seat at the table is important. My manager allows me to spend almost half of my time working on DE&I initiatives. I also am a program manager for one of our development programs in Columbus, which is really focused on making sure that diverse talent has opportunities and has the exposure necessary to be able to climb that corporate ladder. So for me, being able to do the fun DE&I things as well as have a real impact into marketing is the reason why I stayed with.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about your current position and what is it like a day in the life. So what is an owned media channel marketing lead? And then what is a day in the life like for you in that role?
Yes. So if you bank with Chase, which I hope all of you do, if you don't, you should open up an account. So chase.com, we have accounts all types. So if you bank with Chase, you most likely use either our internet our website or our mobile app. The mobile app is a lot better than it was 12 years ago, just so you know. But when you use those applications, some of the things that you see on there are ads, and those can be offers for things like a new checking account or a bonus for taking some action towards your account. What I do is I help to make sure that the ads that show up for you work, that they're personalized for you, and that there's something that you want to engage with. So my goal is to make sure that we get the best ads on the website, and to make sure that we're sharing information with our customers as often as possible. So
Awesome.
a day in the
Awesome.
life
So
is really, yeah. Sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was going to say, so a day in a life is really just setting up meetings with different people from different lines of businesses. So credit card, home loans, auto, and just making sure we have a good approach to how we're going to share our products with customers. So that's pretty much my day.
Awesome. Awesome. So this is one of my favorite questions that I'm going to ask each of our panelists, because if I was a candidate, I would want to know this as well. So that question is, for you personally, what is it that you like most about working at JPMorgan Chase?
So for me, I think it's the ability to be able to know the products that I'm offering and that we're selling, that we're offering to customers. So I worked in telephone banking, and in telephone banking, one of the coolest things about it was the ability to meet a lot of different customers and hear from them. In marketing, I get the opportunity to not just impact what customers see, but also work with a lot of different people. A lot of people from diverse backgrounds with diverse experiences, and I get to learn something new every single day. Today, for example, I actually got to host a Black History Month lunch, where we had food catered from Black-owned restaurants inside of our building at work. And we invited a lot of people from marketing in Columbus. And I got to really just sit there and listen to them, listen to their stories, learn about what they do, and also identify what makes the culture great for them. Because I think the culture is one of the reasons why people stay with Chase.
Awesome. Awesome. And my last question for you before we introduce our next panelist is around the growth on your team and the opportunities on your team and what you've seen. So if I'm a candidate, let's say we were sitting down at lunch and I say, hey, what are some of the opportunities that are on your team, or where's your team growing, and what kind of hiring do you see taking place on your particular team from your perspective?
So one of the awesome things about marketing, and this is probably true at every firm, but it's definitely true at Chase, is that there's always an opportunity to do something better or to do something brand new. So some of the roles that we have in our group that are open now are around just strategy, figuring out the best ways to learn more about customers, identifying opportunities to get offers and ads out to customers more frequently, and to make them consistent. So we have roles out there around with channel strategy, especially with email and then ads, the own media space. So those are roles that are out there, and I would love to have someone from my team join or someone from you guys join.
Awesome. Awesome. So Anita, let me thank you for taking the time out to be one of our panelists, to share your experiences. But with that, I'll go ahead and introduce our next panelist, and then I'll bring you back for our panel discussion. Thanks, Anita. Okay, so our next panelist is Melissa Bonnick, who's Executive Director, Programmatic and Paid Media at Operations. So Melissa, if you're ready.
Yep. So hi, everybody. I'm Melissa Bonnick. So I am specifically in the paid media team. For us, the paid media team reaches across quite a few disciplines. So it is search, it is social, it is programmatic, and then the nebulous ad operations, which I'll explain in a minute, since that's part of my remit. I am a born and bred New Yorker. I know there are very few of us. I am actually in the house that I grew up in. I bought it from my parents. And I am specifically working out of the New York office. I ended up working at JPMorgan Chase. It was actually a pretty interesting story. I started similar to most people on the marketing side. I started on the demand or on the supply side rather, and slowly moved my way over. So I started at an ad network, went to an ad agency, was like, this is for the birds, and slowly made my way client side and over to JPMorgan Chase. JPMC is really great, as you can see with my fellow panelists. They've been here for a really long time. Oddly enough for me, someone left their role after being there for about 9 years, and someone who was my intern let me know that the position was open, and then I came in and interviewed, and now I am here. We work across all of the lines of business and products that exist for JPMorgan Chase, and specifically within programmatic, we do the digital media buying that's done through biddable channels. So that would be any of the automated systems used to show the display ads on the site. The nebulous portion that I mentioned before with ad operations is we manage all of the tagging that is across our .com. So that means if Anita wants to make sure that her conversion event happened, I'm usually the person that placed that tag on the page. A typical day in the life for me, I would probably say, is a mixture of both of those jobs, making sure that tags actually fire correctly and that we are running campaigns that are interesting. No, I am not lucky enough to meet Michael B. Jordan or Kevin Hart, but I do get to put those ads up on sites that you probably see them on, inclusive of YouTube. I think for me, the reason why I moved to JPMorgan Chase and I thought that it was super important to come here was just the longevity, like I mentioned before. Our industry, we see folks jump quite often. And what was really the focus for me at this point in my career was making sure that I had a place that I could grow with and stay at, and not have to worry about my career progression slowing down by staying where I am. And I think the largest selling point for me was the fact that everyone says, again, like Anita said, if you decide tomorrow that there's something that's really interesting and you want to take that on, we're very open to that. And that was super important.
Awesome. You pretty much answered all of my questions.
I tried to learn
out
from
the gate.
what you were asking Anita, so you don't ask me hard questions.
Awesome. So I gotta think of some new ones here. No, but so you've been there for what, a little bit over a year now, or?
Yeah.
Okay, so how about we do a little bit different of a question. What is it that you wish you knew before you came in to take your current role about JPMorgan Chase?
That it is okay that something takes, and it's a running joke for us, that something takes 2 years to go live. I come from the agency side where like you do something within a month and a half, and then you pivot to the next new thing. Here at Chase, we are very not conservative, but we are very careful in terms of making sure that what we do in terms of innovation is safe, is compliant, and it will make sense for an organization of our size. And that means that sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but that's okay. And that's a good thing. And you're not being rushed to just innovate to innovate, which was a welcome change for me.
Awesome. So another question. So you've been there, in the time that you have been there, what is it that you like most about working for JPMorgan Chase now?
I think it's the people. I get to be surrounded by brilliant people. Some of the smartest data and analytical minds, search, paid social folks. I get to literally just spend my time in meetings, like pontificating and talking about the industry as a whole and what we can do to move and, be purpose driven. And that for me is just probably the best part.
Awesome. So Melissa, let me thank you for being one of our panelists and giving us that insight, for answering all of my questions before I even had to ask. But let me thank you for being one of our panelists, and then hang on for our panel discussion a little bit later.
That's good.
All right. So let me introduce our next panelist, who is Rudy Bailey, Vice President, Channel Marketing, Performance Marketing there at JPMorgan Chase. So Rudy, if you're ready.
Yes, thanks, Will. Rudy Bailey, of course, as Will mentioned. I was born originally in Jamaica. I grew up in as poverty-stricken and violence-prone area as you could ever imagine. So while I was not involved with reciprocating violence, I was running a lot. Growing, I migrated to US back in 1986. And for the first 3 years that I was here, I was homeless. I was homeless in the Philadelphia region. Anita and I work on the same team. So Anita knows a lot about my background in that regard. So I was homeless on the 52nd and Market. I don't know if there's anyone on the call that's from Philadelphia, sleeping in Misericordia Hospital, which was later closed down, and finding shelter, waiting on some of the finer restaurants in those areas to close and throw food out. You would not believe what they throw out in some of these restaurants, right? It's still good food. And people who moved in my circle was familiar with that. The greatest blessing of my life, well, there's a few, and I'm so thankful for each and every one of them, was I met my wife as a homeless person. She was a homeless volunteer. And, she would come around the region that I was, the area that I was, and needless to say, I never thought I would have an opportunity to get to know her. However, as fate would have it, she saw something in me that I didn't think I had in me. And she gave me an opportunity, against the wishes of her family. What does a homeless dude have to offer you? Like, that's their perspective, which you can totally understand. But in any case, as we grew together, I was able to go get my undergraduate, held a lot of menial jobs, meaning like janitor and cashier. I laid sod in certain areas. And as I completed my undergrad, I had the opportunity to get into corporate America, which eventually brought me to Chase.
What was your undergrad? Okay, so finance in Wilmington University and organizational leadership.
My master's degree.
So
yeah.
Awesome. So I love to get the background in the story, because you never know who in the audience can relate to parts of the story. So after you went through going and getting your education, how did you get your foot in the door at JPMorgan Chase?
I got my foot in the door as a contractor. At 18 years ago, we had a larger contractor base at Chase. And the contractor role allows you to come in without a full commitment from Chase that you're a permanent employee with all the benefits and everything. I came in through an agency and went from there, served as a contractor for about 3 years. I can't remember exactly how many years now, but served as a contractor. And someone saw something good that they believed that they wanted me to be at Chase as a full-time employee, and so I was converted.
Awesome. So can you talk to us a little bit about what it's like to be a VP channel marketing and performance marketing? Like, what is a day in the life like, and what does that role entail?
A day in my life entails a lot of discussion with our marketing team, a lot of discussions within our internal team. Anita mentioned about testing. So I manage strategy, and my team manage various parts that ties into strategy, capacity, and transition of the work into our execution space. Spending time with our marketers to understand not only current strategy, but long-term goals, what they're looking to do. Leverage one of my team members to help create that long-term view from a capacity perspective, so we can know we have resources to support the enormous book of work for the 13 lines of business that we support. And also as we work through those strategy discussions, we leverage other people on our team to look at potential performance. We have an optimization team, a group of tremendously smart people. Melissa mentioned smart people. We have Anita, who's in charge of cross-functional testing, and we have Prasada folks. So we all, I leverage each and every one of them as I'm helping our marketing team build the best possible strategy to realize the best possible performance of the ad that's going out into our chase.com and mobile space.
Excellent. So from your perspective, when you think about the growth of this team, now or in the future, the types of opportunities that you're seeing and the need for certain talent on your team. What can you share with us as far as the growth and the types of opportunities that you see on your team?
Absolutely. So the opportunities right now are, or I would say would be coming up over the next, soon to be future, people with technical background in optimization. That's the way of the future. That we've been able to we're one of the channels that have developed that better than most of the other channels to date. And I believe we're going to continue to grow in that. That's really reading into the numbers, understanding what's benchmark, understanding what good performance is. And so the part I alluded to earlier, if say our optimization team runs some performance reports on some of the ads that's currently in market, and we deem that they're not performing well enough, the process would then be that we engage with each other and we can see how we can help our business improve that. Our channel have grown exponentially over the last few years, where Anita, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm misstating this number, but we've grown to a $2 billion channel performance, right? So that was unheard of. That, when going back 3-4 years ago, this was not envisioned, but based on the people that we're able to bring into the space, the knowledge, the smartness that they bring, the attention to details that they bring, it has really helped the channel to grow.
Excellent. And so for you personally, what is it that you like most in your 18 years at working at JPMorgan Chase? What is it that you like most about the company?
Well, what I like the most now is not what I liked the most back then, right? What I like the most now are the people that I have the opportunity to work with on a day-to-day basis. We have some great people, we have some smart people, but we have some people that are good to work with. We have some people that cares about you. We have people that you can brainstorm easily with, and you're not hesitant to express a thought, even if the thought just meets with crickets, right? You don't think about expressing your thoughts as you brainstorm, but truly the people. And then one of the things I love about Chase, as I've watched Chase evolve over the years, is their commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusivity. We have grown tremendously in that space with that in mind. And so, we have so many BRGs and different organizations within Chase that leans into that. And that these are the main thing why I so enjoy. Folks makes it easier for you to get up and come into work on a daily basis, right? And when you have the type of working relationship that we've been able to develop over the years, not only in my organization, but across Chase, it makes things a little less stressful.
Awesome. So Rudy, let me thank you for being one of our panelists and for sharing your story, your path to JPMorgan Chase, and your experience at JPMorgan Chase. We really appreciate it. So I'll ask that you hang on for our panel discussion. But with that, I'll go ahead and introduce our next speaker. So thanks, Rudy. Okay, our next speaker is Ian J. Brown, who's Executive Director, Product Marketing Strategy, Chase Freedom, and Chase Slate. So Ian, if you're ready.
I am. Hi, everybody. I am originally from Los Angeles, which is where I am today. I'm actually on set for a photo shoot for Freedom. So please forgive any background noise and the shifting colors behind me. It's very windy at the moment. This little makeshift location is looking like it's going to fall apart. So I've been here for 7.5 years. How I got to Chase was actually, I came from the agency side, the advertising agency side. I'd worked at several of the larger agencies, including Ogilvy, Saatchi & Saatchi, McCann, BBDO, and an account executive that I hired to join my team at BBDO. We were working on ExxonMobil. She came from McGarry Bowen, which was the agency for Chase. And she had kept in touch with her client, who is now my friend, Rachel Bazaldua, and there was a role that was open, and Kara came to me and said, I think that this role would be really up your league. And so I read it, the job description. It was an opportunity to join go client side, with the brand team and be responsible for developing the advertising for freedom. And that sounded like a great opportunity because one, I think is I think was it Michelle said, being on the agency side is not exactly the most fun of times. And I had done it for nearly 13, 14 years and was ready for a switch. And being able to come client side, as they say, and be responsible for the management of a brand, the growth of a brand was really intriguing to me. And so came in for an interview, met with 5 people in that interview. What it was unique about that interview was I was able to sort of, I think effectively for the first time, articulate my background and my experience, and sort of the odd route that I had taken in my career to get to where I was and sort of showcase why I thought that I would be great for the role. And I walked out of that interview thinking, okay, I sold myself as best as I possibly could. I presented everything as best as I possibly could. And I don't get that job. There was somebody else actually more qualified than myself, and I would be okay with that. And I never felt that way before. I eventually got the offer and have been here ever since. Currently, I'm in a new role. I switched roles in January, so I'm now on the card side, the business side. And so I've joined the card team, leading Freedom and Slate. I'm responsible for advertising strategy, working media strategy, content strategy, and our consumer engagement strategy. So those four different buckets. One bucket is looking at our advertising campaigns featuring Kevin Hart. I have been here since day one on all of that work. So a lot of my blood, sweat, and tears and ideas are in the advertising you've seen to date. On the media side, it is working with our media COE partners on figuring out our channel strategy, how much of our advertising dollars we want to deploy into specific channels and into specific geographies, for how much and for how long. And then on the content side, we're looking to stand up an ongoing content body of work that supports Freedom and Slate and allows or positions Freedom as a thought leader in the cashback space or cashback credit card space. And then the fourth work stream, if you are a Freedom customer, which I hope many of you are, we have a quarterly consumer engagement program where we offer every quarter a bonus 5% on specific categories. And that program has been running since Freedom has launched. And it's a big part of the Freedom P&L. And we are looking to continue to innovate it and make it more meaningful for our customers. So those are the 4 parts of our mass affluent business that I lead.
Awesome. So a couple of questions for you.
Yes.
First one, and these are questions that I've asked our other panelists, but very curious, for your team. What do you see as far as the opportunities going into the future on your team? Like, what type of talent needs does your team have?
There are two interesting areas. I think as one of the reasons why I love working at JPMorgan Chase is as a full service firm, we have a unique opportunity to bring meaningful products and make a material difference in consumers' lives from very early ages, preteen, to start to educate them on financial management and take that person all the way through all their life milestones to retirement and set them up for a safe and secure life in retirement. And so what that requires is for all of the businesses to be thinking through, like, what are the right products that we should be creating, devising, developing? Do we have the right technology? Are we thinking about the benefits in the right way? And so a long way of answering that question is people who can think strategically about what consumers need and think strategically about the right ways of marketing those products to them. And then the other part of that equation is also people who can think creatively. How can you take insights, data points, factual information, and turn them into creative ideas or creative insights or copy or art direction that will appear in advertising or appear in our marketing communications. When I go about hiring for my teams, those are the two areas that I probe into. Can somebody think innovatively, think differently? And then can you be imaginative with that thinking as well?
Excellent. So my next question, again, that I've asked all of our panelists is around what is it that you like most about working at JPMorgan Chase for you personally?
I hate to be a broken record, but the people here are one of the main reasons. And I say that for a couple of reasons. One, being a large firm and as one as sort of esteemed as this one, you will encounter many smart people. You will encounter many driven people who are very focused on developing the work in a smart, meaningful, robust way. But alongside that, there are, everybody's nice, but many people are incredibly nice. My first 2-3 weeks coming into the organization, everybody that I would meet would introduce me to somebody else to help me set up my own network of people that I wanted to keep, whether they were references, whether they could be potential mentors, colleagues working in other departments that I may not work with on an everyday basis, but being able to have connections outside my immediate team was a very deliberate and thoughtful and very meaningful thing that permeates into the culture and really speaks to how well people think of others within the organization.
Excellent. Excellent. So Ian, let me thank you for taking the time out. I know you're on set, so I want to thank you for taking the time out to provide your insight and be a part of our panel. So with that, let's go ahead, now that everyone knows the folks that have, kind of volunteered to talk about their experiences in the different roles, let's go ahead and start our panel discussion. And then let me also briefly introduce the HR folks and the recruiters that are also backing up our discussion. So if you have any questions around that end up falling into the HR space or the recruiting or process kind of space, let me go ahead and introduce those folks as well. So Michelle, if you'd like to introduce yourself and your role on the team.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice meeting you all today. My name is Michelle Della Rosa. I'm a marketing recruiter here at JPMorgan Chase, and I have been with the firm for 18 years.
Awesome. And Shelly, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Shelly Camp. I have been with the firm for 18 years. I also do marketing recruitment, and I'm based out of Columbus, Ohio, too.
Go Columbus. And Audrey, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Audrey. I am also a marketing recruiter. I've been with the company for 4 years, but I am based in Wilmington, Delaware.
Awesome. So I just want to thank the HR and the recruiting team for supporting us on our panel discussion. So now here's what we're going to do. So to all of our candidates, right? I don't want to dominate this conversation, right? I have prepared some questions to ask on your behalf to our panelists, but we have roughly 40 minutes or so. Let's say 35 to 40 minutes to have this discussion. So I want to prioritize your questions for the team mixed in with some of the questions that I have as well. So if you like to prepare your questions, there's 2 ways that you can get those questions through. You can ask the question in the chat, and then I'll be keeping an eye on the chat to ask those questions in between my own questions. Or if you're in a quiet place and you're prepared to turn on your video and ask questions that way, you can use the raise hand feature within Zoom. And the way you get to that, if you look at the options within Zoom, where you see your video, your mute and participation and those icons there, if you click on the more, one of the options is called reactions. And if you click on reaction, when you're ready, you can click on raise hand, and then I'll see you in the queue to ask your question. And then I'll allow you that opportunity to come off of mute and ask your question to our panelists. But I'll go ahead and kick things off as you all prepare your questions for the chat or to use the raise hand feature and come on video and off of mute. All right. So since we left off with Ian, I'm going to ask you the first question because I'm curious as well. And I think it'll be interesting for our candidates. And that is, what is the coolest part of your job? I heard you mention your blood, sweat, and tears into the campaign with Kevin Hart. But what would you say are one of the coolest aspects of your job so far?
I apologize. I misspoke. It was Melissa who had referenced agency work and not Michelle. So forgive me for that. The coolest part is ironically sort of still seeing the work you produce on air, in radio, in an ad. It's you're because you're there. You saw the behind the scenes. You saw what you captured, and you know what you didn't use, and you know what you chose to use. And why you feel good about what went to market, I think is definitely one of the exciting parts. And then closely tied to that is we've been extremely fortunate in having Kevin as a spokesperson and him being so beloved by many that it allows the work to perform so well that it set new standards in terms of ad performance for the firm overall. So many teams look to Freedom as sort of a template for what to do or how to replicate that type of success. And so it is very gratifying to see that, but it also, for me personally, turns up sort of the dial on needing to continue that and set the bar higher and higher, in part because that's my personal sort of mission. But as a firm that really, I think, identifies, excels, and celebrates excellence, you want to maintain that as well.
Awesome. All right, so I'm going to go round robin, and I'm going to try to get everyone involved in the conversation to the JPMorgan Chase team. But if anyone wants to add on to one of the questions or answers from a previous panelist, feel free to interrupt me to add your 2 cents for the sake of our candidates. All right, so my next question is for Anita and then Rudy, if Rudy, you have some insight on this as well. But that is, do you need a degree in marketing to join the team? And if not, what is most important when you look at the background of a potential new hire on your team? So Anita, if you can give us any insight on that.
Yes, so I actually have 0 marketing experience before I started in marketing in June of last year. So no, you do not need a marketing degree to go into marketing. One of the things I think that I stood out for as far as getting this role was my ability to learn. I am a person that likes to learn new things and is very interested in them. Also, my attitude, I think having a positive attitude makes people want to teach you. And that is also something that's important within marketing. So I think having those good qualities, having a background. So a lot of my background is in the technology space. You may not think about it, but technology is important for ads. So that's building those requirements and understanding from a technical standpoint what needs to happen. So that background has also allowed me to be impactful within the owned media and testing space. So no marketing degree, but be willing to learn.
Excellent. Rudy, I don't know if you have any insight or anything you'd like to add on to Anita's answer there.
The only thing I would say is to agree. You don't need a marketing degree to move into our space. It helps to understand how to read the numbers. It helps to be able to, from the optimization piece that I mentioned earlier, not be afraid of technology, right? Because we're leveraging new technology almost every day. So hoping the folks that comes in are willing to learn whatever new technology we bring to the table. And one of the things that I've learned is, very advantageous is to just bring your authentic self to work every day. Bring your authentic self. Don't be hesitant to ask questions. Be less concerned with how people may view your question. the questions you're asking. Because ultimately, if you don't get that question answered, you could conceivably carry that with you for a while, and it could have been a tremendous learning opportunity for you, but you're so concerned with what others may think about you asking these questions that you go away with a great level of uncertainty. So yeah, just adding those things to Anita's response.
Thanks, Rudy. So one of the things that you mentioned was being your authentic self. And one of my favorite questions to ask, considering the fact that this is a diversity-focused event, and we want folks to feel that this is a safe space to have conversations and ask questions, especially as minorities and African American or Latinx candidates that might be on the call. So that goes into my next question, and I'll open this up to anyone on the panel, especially if you have a story you'd like to share. But this next question is related to that. And Melissa, I'm going to pose this question to you, and that is, do you feel that you can be yourself and bring your authentic self to work at JPMorgan Chase?
I definitely do. The running joke is when I am working from home, I always have my glasses on and my headscarf or my turban. And no one has ever said anything about the fact that I've got a turban on in the middle of a Zoom call while I'm working from home. So absolutely. There are things that I say. Again, Rudy, I am Jamaican as well. And I cannot tell you how many times I've used some sort of a patois term, and people have looked at me and been like, what does that mean? that I'm so comfortable that sometimes I can sit in a meeting and I can say a word like stush. If you're Jamaican, you know what that means. I have no idea what the English word is, but I do that in meetings that I'm completely comfortable. So yes, you can bring your authentic self to work.
Does anyone of our panelists have any stories, whether it's making that adjustment to working at JPMorgan Chase or even in corporate America, that they like to share about the culture or the work environment, being a minority or someone from a diverse background, and how you felt, or any experiences you might have that you like to share?
I'll share. So I actually have mental health diagnoses. So I have some mental health issues. And one of the things that I value about Chase as a firm is here in Columbus, we have on-site therapists, we have on-site doctors, we have on-site behavioral coaches. We also have a great employee program for those kind of health issues, and you can get someone to talk to. You actually have that support here in the building. The other great thing is my team is very, very much a safe place. So when I do have concerns or I'm having issues or I need extra help or I need grace sometimes, it's very easy for me to say, hey, I'm not my best self. Are you okay with picking up the slack here? Or let me know if you don't like what I'm doing. I know I'm going through things that I'm not able to always keep that in mind. So just being able to have that support has been immensely beneficial to me, and is I think a saving grace here at the firm.
Awesome. Appreciate that insight. Okay, so I see a few hands are raised, right? So like I said, I don't want to dominate the conversation with the questions that I have for the panelists, even though I'm happy to go back to some of those. I want to hear from some of our candidates. So if you want to turn on your video, and I'll call on you one by one to ask your question. But the thing I'm going to ask from a protocol perspective is be considerate of other folks that may be also waiting to ask a question. So if you could keep your questions succinct and to the point for our panelists, but feel free to introduce yourself. All right, so the first person that I'm going to call on is RJ Johns. So RJ, if you'd like to come off of mute and ask your question.
Yes, hello everybody, and thank you, Will, for hosting this event. My question is, I actually applied for an art director position a couple of months ago at the prompting of HBCU Connect, and I have, in full transparency, I was interested then, but now listening to the panelists talk about the culture of JPMorgan Chase, I am extremely interested. So my question is, what gets an application to the top? What gets you really sincerely looked at?
Great question. So if I have to default this one, I'll look to the recruitment team But I think it would be great if there's any insight from our panelists as well.
100% doing things like this. I mean, you're standing out. We now know who you are. We'll connect with you. We'll talk to you. We'll put you through the process and help you understand a little bit better. And I have an art director role open. So, I'm happy to talk through that with you. Last year it was crazy, right? I mean, companies were hiring, we were hiring like crazy. The experience, you could have gotten lost in the shuffle. It was just madness, heads down, we got to, interview and get these roles filled. So I feel like we're in a good place now. Things have calmed down. So I think it'll be a better experience this year.
Thank you so much.
Great question, RJ. And let me also mention that by way of you attending this event, we're going to give you the opportunity. There's a special link that we're going to provide you with, that if you submit your information, your resume, and details on that link is going directly to this team specifically for this event and this opportunity. So the intent is that you get a good look by following those instructions that we're going to share towards the end of this event. Okay, great question. So let's go ahead and bring in the next question from Elizabeth James. So Elizabeth, if you'd like to come off of mute and ask your question.
Good evening. My question is real straight to the point. My question is, as a multifaceted creative or communicator, or someone that works in communications, my background is in marketing and communications, and cut to the chase. But basically, how do you stand out on a resume? Like, how do you show your passion through a resume if you're so multifaceted, but still keeping it concise to one page, but still showing that you have a lot of value that you bring to the table?
I think that's a great question. So how do you stand out on that resume, for folks that are considering these opportunities? I know by default, this is a great one for the HR team, but for our panelists, if you all review resumes to make decisions on bringing people in for interviews, we'd love to hear from you as well.
I think for me, when it comes to looking at resumes, what stands out to me is, does it either tangentially or directly match what I am looking for? So if, for example, I do actually read cover letters. So if, for example, you say, hey, I know that like, I'm not necessarily exactly, but here's, tangentially, I've got this, which is translatable to this. It means you actually read the job posting and you're like, you know what? I may not necessarily have a quant or analytics background, but I did these 5 things that took, our performance from this to this, or I generated a list that did XYZ thing. So just communicating that you looked at the posting and then saying, I know I'm not a perfect fit, but here is what works and what I can translate is super important for me.
Yeah, to build on that, I don't think people use the art of the cover letter enough, because in the last year or so, I didn't get any applications with cover letters, and had one come across, that would have been something distinct for me to look at. And that, as Melissa said, is your opportunity to articulate your understanding of the job posting, or articulate questions you might have about it, because sometimes the job postings we write are not the most clear, and we really strive to make them clear, and you end up being more unclear. What I would say is, when I look at a resume, I look at it and make an assessment of the type of experience that is being communicated on the document. It may not be a one-to-one correlation, but if you've put something there that you think addresses or answers a particular point in that job description write-up, the recruiter or the hiring manager is going to see that and is going to notice that and say, okay, this might be someone I want to talk to because there's a transferable skill there, or a way of thinking that would be of great benefit to my team. And that's how I personally look at resumes and make an assessment of who I want to interview and who I don't want to interview, because it's interesting. You can easily tell when somebody just submitted a resume as it was without kind of tailoring it to the role and tailoring your experience to the job that you are applying for.
Great questions and great answers. A little quick one from the chat. Is there, and this is something that I've seen and heard, that the reason why you might not be seeing those cover letters is because a lot of people out there are saying that they don't need a cover letter and that they need the resume to be on one page and that kind of thing. So the question that I saw in the chat was, should a resume be one page or two pages? As a follow-up to Melissa and Ian's comments.
I've
I can
seen
answer
1,
that.
2, 3, and 4 pages. So I would say, for me personally, I don't know if it matters so much. It might matter to the recruiters who have to sift through the paperwork, but to me, it's about what is on the document and the experience that's communicated.
Yeah, I was going to answer that one as well. Honestly, and this is me being straight up, we spend 15 to 20 seconds reviewing a resume. We're looking for what the responsibilities are in the role, and we look to that resume to see if we see a match. I don't read cover letters, I'm honest. I don't have time. But I'm also one that likes to have conversations with people that look like they might not have everything I'm looking for, but I'm the first to have that conversation to say, you know, they have transferable skills. Let's see. So.
And
Awesome.
to build on Shelley's common answer, the recruiters have said to me, this is an interesting resume. I don't know if this is exactly what you want, but this, I either talk to the person or there's something on here that I think could speak well. And I'm like, all right, you take that under advisement and you go, all right, let's look at that. So I, again, go back to tailoring your resume to the role and having an understanding of the role that you're applying for.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's hit the nail on the head. That was going to be what I was going to reiterate. But thank you all for that insight and for that question. Now, I see quite a few hands up, which is good, right? We want you all to engage and ask questions. So I'm just going to reiterate, when you ask your question, please feel free to introduce yourself, but please ask your question as succinct and to the point as possible. All right, so Alex, I see your hand is raised next. So Alex, if you'd like to go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, hi everyone, I'm Alex Camacho. Nice meeting you all. I have a marketing and agency background. My question is, I've noticed that the skill sets requirements have become extensive for any one role. They now must be a media strategist, channel marketer, a content creator, a project manager, maybe even a coder. Not any one person has all those skills. So with that said, what is your methodology for choosing the right candidate? What are the reasons for not choosing?
So this may go back to the comments around this resume looks interesting, and then taking a look, but would love to hear some thoughts from either the HR team or our panelists on that.
Oh,
I didn't
God.
mean to stomp anyone.
Yeah.
I just noticed that.
I
You know, I'm in the agency side.
Yeah.
I've worked in marketing. I've worked for some big clients. I have an extensive background, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, COVID has created a lot of layoffs. And so, you know, you're looking at these job descriptions, and they're asking for everything under the sun, and there's no one person that has those qualifications.
Well,
So,
I can tell you that our job descriptions are getting.
Yeah, we just
we
did
are
a revamp.
Yeah, we are revamping them to streamline them, to make them a lot easier, and you know, they will kind of be cohesive, and they're all going to be the same across the board. Now, roles and just like the roles and qualifications will be tailored to each like team and line of business. But and I can agree with you, they may not make sense. So that's why we went this direction with, you know, fixing them and revamping them and doing the refresher. So you should see a difference, and they all will not be like extreme and things like that. So you should notice that when applying for roles. But not all of them, like I think Anita, you said it, we're not all looking for them's qualifications. We are looking for some of them, but you don't need all of them to be qualified for the role. But, you know, some hiring managers, when we meet with them, you know, project management might be a big, you know, qualification that they are looking for. But, you know, when we meet with candidates, you know, we will express what they are looking for. I hope that helps a little bit.
Michelle, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, thank you for that. I appreciate it. It's that when you should just apply whether you don't meet all those qualifications.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's what I was going to go over. We're doing a big, huge revamp. They're all going to the message and everything is going to be consistent and should be easier to read.
And I do have one last question, and I do apologize. So for the hiring managers, what would you like to hear from candidates beyond the skills and the requirements? So don't mean to put you on the spot, Ian, but there's a lot of things that I like what you're saying. So I just wanted to get, you know, your feedback.
I think for me, it's definitely passion, and then having interests outside. Like, I want to make sure that work is not all that you think about 100 times a day. So I think making sure that you are passionate about your role, but also just that you have, you know, things that you care about outside of it. I think that's super important for me as a hiring manager.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I would say passion and bring visibility to the way you think about things. And it kind of goes back to the job that you're applying for and the role. And if you don't know what that role fully entails, feel free to ask those questions. Like, don't walk out of the interview without understanding the job, because you'll have a conversation about the role, and then you can start to pinpoint like what you think the role should entail and what your experience could be applicable to it. And in that conversation, you'll end up in a stronger place where you're able to represent yourself better. And that would probably go a lot further than sort of trying to have a conversation about hitting the bullet points on the job description.
No, that's great. Thank you for the feedback.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
Yep, and thanks for the question. And I'll give some additional advice to that, because I think part of the answer to your question was in the question, and that is, you know, if let's say it's the scenario that it's going to be hard for one person to match all of these different skill sets. So if you feel like you're a good fit for that job and you want that job, then I would encourage you to apply anyway, because if you're right that not too many people fit all of those requirements, then if you are a fit and there's not a lot of people that fit everything, then you can still have your hat in the ring, right? So you still may have an opportunity to interview and discuss your experience. So, and that's what this event is about at the end of the day, is we want you all to get consideration. But there's also been some really great insights shared around, you know, what those roles are, looking at the details and making sure you're communicating that you are a fit for those roles through your resume. Okay, so great questions thus far. So I'm going to go ahead and continue, because like I see a lot of hands up. So again, to our candidates, if you can make your question as straight to the point as possible, we would appreciate it, so that we can give everyone a chance to ask questions. So this next question I'm seeing from, is it Malile Chungo?
Hello, my name is Malele Jongo. Thank you so much for this conversation. It's really refreshing, and I think Marcus commented it was super transparent, so really appreciate the candor on that. Mine is going to be really quick. Rudy, I really wanted to ask you about Web3 and how far JPMorgan is going into that, but I think I'll ask a question that relates to the wider group and connect later with you. So for the recruiters, what is like a candidate red flag?
And that, do you mean on a resume, or do you mean in an interview?
General.
In general.
A lot of postings. So sometimes we'll see people, we can see your activity on our end, like how many roles you're posting to. Sometimes we'll get people that may post to a bunch of different things, and we're looking at like, okay, what truly are you interested in? So, you know, you're going to have inactive applications, but keeping your active applications maybe to around 5-ish at a time, you know, because we can see kind of your application history and what's going on there. So that's the only one right now that's coming to the top of my head.
Yeah, and kind of to piggyback off of what you're saying, Michelle, we can see your active applications, and if you are interested in something and you're applying for roles, make sure they're similar roles and you're not just applying for roles all over the place. Because to me, that's a red flag. It's just you're applying just to apply, and it doesn't make it seem like you're interested in just one thing. So that would just be my advice.
A tremendous red flag for me is we talked about making sure that your resume reflects something from the job description, right? Not necessarily all of that, but then don't think the managers don't know your experience when they look at it, meaning don't just tailor the resume to match something from the posting, but you truly do not have that experience, because we can see through that and we will have the conversation. And if we're hiring for a role in our space, rest assured we have good knowledge about our space. And when we see certain things on the resume, and we may ask you some specific questions to that, we're looking for a certain type of response that indicates, yes, there is some true level of engagement in that, in which you're putting on your resume. So yeah, listen, I'm not saying folks are purposely being deceitful, but people want to get hired. And oftentimes when you're so caught up in your desire to get hired, and you know something, you have to have some type of indication on your resume to the job posting, there may be some mistruths on there, and you really don't want that to end up being a factor during the interview process. And that's a big red flag to me. Another thing is, we're not a formal environment, but don't dress for the job you have. Dress for the job you want. You know, and I'm not saying you have to wear a suit and tie and all of that. I've had interviews where, you know, it's like, okay, like, you know, show that you really want to give some level of impression, even from a physical appearance perspective.
Ian, I saw you unmuted for a moment. Did you want to add something?
You're on mute.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Certainly don't lie about your experience, because you will be found out in the questioning. And it'll go south. But what I also wanted to say is that what we're doing very well and being very mindful about is being aware of our colleagues' open roles and open opportunities, and saying, okay, this person wasn't a right fit for my job or what I need, but Teresa, I know that you're looking for somebody like this. And that happened last year. I was filling a role on the strategy side. 3 good candidates came in. One of them I thought was brilliant, but not quite what I was looking for. I handed it to my colleague, and she hired him because he was a strong candidate. So you apply for very specific jobs, but there might be an opportunity that comes up that hasn't been posted or is about to be posted that you haven't seen yet. And that gets you, and have that great conversation with the hiring manager, because that is sort of your first interview to the next interview.
Also doing a little bit of research about JPMorgan. Know what we're doing in the DE&I space. Know what we're doing in the community that you live in. That always impresses me when someone leads with, well, I also like when they say, oh, and I'm a customer and I love this. And I mean, I always get so excited when they tell me they're a customer, which I mean, I know a lot of people are, but that's what impresses me when I'm doing interviews. I want to know what you like to do and what you want to do. I don't just want to know, I'm not going to, just do question after question. I want to embrace you and get to know you. Yes, it starts with the resume, but if you get to this point, you're going to get where you need to go if you impress me.
Awesome insight. Awesome insight. So, all right. So I see we've still got a lot of hands raised. So let's try to get through these questions as fast as we can so that everyone has a chance to ask those questions. So Hannah, I see you have your hand raised. Would you like to go ahead and ask your question?
Yeah, of course. My name is Hannah Holt. Thank you so much for putting this panel discussion together. And oh my gosh, Shelly, I was just bringing up DEI, so thanks so much for segueing into that. I'm very passionate about DEI. So my question is, what are some of the goals some of the panelists have on your teams, and how do they include DEI? And also, what are some of the skills you look for in candidates to help push JPMorgan DEI initiatives?
So let me segue that one to Anita. Anita, if you'd like to share some insight on that one.
Yes, definitely. So one of the things that I think is important when you think about DE&I is it's not just a, hey, this Black History Month, yay, 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 but it's also sharing that knowledge and being a person that people come to talk about those things. So it's integrity and honesty and genuineness. The genuine willingness to learn, because you're not going to be a part of every single community, and wanting to be an ally. The other side of it is that the DE&I work that I do isn't my full-time job. I have a real job to do, and I do DE&I on the side. So I manage my time in a way that I can make sure that all of my responsibilities are done from a work perspective, and then also put my energy into DE&I. So for me, I would think it would be time management, being very honest about what you're able to do and what you're not able to do, and then building a network of people that don't look like you, don't have the same story as you, and just showing that you want to learn and that you're willing to share things about your culture as well in a quick way.
Thanks so much,
Awesome.
Anita.
So I actually
Awesome.
wanted to jump in a little bit on this as well, just because from an execution standpoint, it's a little bit different. And I actually do sit on the council with Anita as well. But from a day-to-day perspective, we really are trying to tie ourselves and focus on initiatives that are purpose-driven and focused in DE&I. So I do spend, and Ian knows this as well, we spend our time making sure that we do things like making sure that we are extending our audiences so we are diverse targeted in our ad campaigns. We do have an invested effort in making sure that we are reaching diverse owned publishers. So we are trying to really focus on making sure that the campaigns that we do truly reach the broad swath and fit to what America looks like, and not just DE&I as a term, but DE&I within our campaign executions as well.
And you can that several of us from a DE&I perspective, we end up working on committees and organizations and different events and different things periodically. However, one of the things that was just said, that DE&I has become a daily lifestyle where we want to show on a consistent basis respect, inclusivity. We have developed a very low tolerance for the off-the-cuff jokes and comments and all that, right? And we address these issues when we see them coming, and we encourage our team members and staff members, people who report to us or otherwise, to get involved with some of these BRGs, right? And one of the greatest thing about it, about JPMorgan Chase is 100% committed to this. I'll tell you one thing, JPMorgan Chase committed $30 billion, I believe it was 2 years ago, to help close the wealth gap. Right. And as an employee of JPMorgan Chase and a minority in JPMorgan Chase, and being part of a long tenure at JPMorgan Chase, that was unprecedented. But it showed the shift to which JPMorgan Chase is trying to move towards, to say, hey, we're committed to this thing. It's not just in our words, but in our actions. And we foster that behavior right down through the ranks.
Awesome insight. Thanks, Rudy. And for those that may not be familiar with the acronym DE&I, that's diversity, equity, and inclusion. I saw that in the chat.
And BRG is a business resource group. So we have a number of them. So we have some for Black employees, for Asian employees, Hispanics. So we have a lot of business resource groups that are basically groups of people where you can show allyship or also belong.
Awesome. Okay, so I see lots more questions, hands up, 4 questions. So if you have a question, let's try to make it as to the point as possible. So T.Land, if you'd like to go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Tiara. You call me T for short, if that's hard to pronounce for now. But my question is very simple because I've had a unique background in a set of circumstances. So I haven't necessarily worked for one particular company. I've worked for a multitude of companies across different industries, mainly leading campaigns, driving sales, and having my own branding agency and being an entrepreneur for about 11 years plus now, you know, having to create my own opportunities, fine tune my digital media skills, marketing experiences. So my main question is that for a person like me that doesn't have a traditional background, but has a passion for branding, for creating digital media, advertising, and I've been in performance-based work, which is not always consistent, or, you know, income is flux. So, you know, how does your team, or how open is your team to working with someone like myself who has that self-employed background, but has the drive and the, I guess you could say, get up and go get it, learn everything you need to learn attitude, because I have that experience, if that makes sense.
T, you sound like you were just on an interview, and I would hire you.
Okay.
And it ties into so many things that was said before. Do not sell yourself short. Put yourself out there. Submit the resume. Submit the application. Allow folks to hear you, to hear your story, because you just in that 30-second clip, right? You sound energetic. You sound like you're willing to learn. You're willing to adapt. There's so many qualities that I picked up just in that 30 seconds of listening to you. So I'd be calling Shelly right around now and say, hey,
Absolutely not, Rudy. I've got a digital role that might be perfect for her. Go away.
Well, I'm gonna send it over. Perfect. Thank you.
No, thank you for the question and for keeping it straight and to the point. And I appreciate the answer, Rudy and Melissa. So next up, I see Deontay Monroe. So Deontay, if you'd like to go ahead and ask your question.
Thanks,
there you go. Yes, sir.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, sir.
So I have a question with regards to, firstly, are these roles exclusively in office, or are there any remote opportunities? And after that, can you talk about what outcomes for someone who joins your respective teams? What is the expectations for that? And then talk about a little bit about the onboarding and how to get someone trained up and up to speed if you was to select them to join JP Chase Morgan.
So first part of the question was, are any of the roles that are available remote? Because I'm sure some of the roles or probably most of them are in the office. So if anyone would like to speak to that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we're hybrid. So our hybrid model is 3 days in office, 2 remote. So yes, you do have to be near one of our marketing hubs. For the centers, we typically hire in Columbus, Chicago, Wilmington, and New York City. But we do have some other marketing teams that sit in the businesses that may hire in Plano and in California, and I'm trying to think of others, but those 4 that I just mentioned earlier are the main. So we do sometimes offer relocation assistance for those that are willing to relocate close to one of those hubs.
So the second and third part of the question, I think the second part of the question might be a little bit challenging as far as the expectations, because it could be different for different roles. But the third part of your question around onboarding, I feel could be answered succinctly. And I like to point that one to Melissa, since I think Melissa joined the team most recently. So Melissa, what was it like to onboard or come on board to the team at JPMorgan Chase?
For me, I think I'm going to reference what Ian said. For me, it was spending a lot of time with folks who are within my team, and then the concentric circles outside of that. So I was lucky enough that I joined during a time period where almost everybody was off on vacation anyway, which was December. So I had the ability to sort of go through all of our shared drives, read our documentation, meet with each team member. And then they really did a good job, like Ian said, of, hey, you should really talk to this person. You should talk to this person on the brand. You should talk to this person in analytics. And it sort of became a concentric circle of having that, okay, I'm going to talk to the broader team, the broader team, the broader team from there. And then it's not that you're drinking from the fire hose, but the firm is large. So you do tend to, even now, there are times where I end up in a meeting and I'm like, I've never met this person before, but this is amazing. So you're always learning, you're always expanding. Onboarding is forever. I think, don't think that you're going to be onboarded in 3 months. I'm still having conversations with our privacy policy team and individuals who are like, I didn't know you existed, but this is amazing.
Awesome.
So I think that's the biggest thing. Onboarding is forever.
Awesome.
Melissa, I love
thanks.
that you called it drinking through a fire hose, because that's exactly what I use. That's the analogy I use all the time.
Yep. But never in a bad way, I promise.
Awesome. Hey, so we've got roughly 5 minutes left. We've got a lot of hands up. So I'm going to ask, let's try to do rapid fire questions and rapid fire answers. So the next person I have up is Pernell. So Pernell, if you'd like to ask your question.
Absolutely. Thank you, Will. And thank you for hosting this panel. Good evening, everyone. Really quick, my question, and the colleague of mine that sent over the information that Will put together regarding the roles available. A lot of those roles were VP level, senior associate. I know that means different things to different organizations. I do prescribe to the doctrine, like Rudy said, apply and put yourself out there, but I want to make sure that I'm doing that in the best way possible. So could someone kind of tell, where does a senior associate sit within your organization? Where does a VP sit? And what kind of seniority does that have? And how should we look at that for applying for roles?
It's a great question. Great question. So how do the levels translate to years of experience at JPMorgan Chase?
So associate is less experienced typically than a senior associate, which is less than a vice president, which is less than an executive director. And then we even have managing directors at that level. So I think that helps with the hierarchy, like levels going up.
And if we know years of experience, I know a lot of the roles that we posted were 5+ years of experience in some cases. And I did see a comment in the chat that's, said, is that the ceiling, the new ceiling, that you've got to have 5+. So the answer is no. JPMorgan Chase is doing hiring from the college level, internship level, all the way up to folks that have executive level experience. So don't think that if we're talking about having 5+ years of experience, in certain cases on this call, don't think that precludes you or excludes you from an opportunity. So as you heard, I think Ian was the last person to mention this, your resume could come across the desk as a result of this event, and maybe you're not an immediate fit for the opportunities that they're looking for, but they're also going to share your resumes if you might be a fit for something else that could be at a different experience level or even on a different team. So I wanted to address that comment, but if there's anyone that wanted to provide any insight on, years of experience and how that may translate to the different levels.
I know, and Michelle, feel free to let me know if I'm off, but if I remember correctly, associate and analyst, 3 years or under, senior associate, 3 to 8, VP, 8+, and then ED and higher tend to be higher than that. Again, it's flex based on every single team. And if you don't hit that minimum number of years, don't think you can't apply. Michelle literally just met with, and we just hired someone who is a senior associate, or rather, she had a 1.5 years and is a high level performer, and we could tell via the interview. So we were like, okay, let's hire her because she's great.
Right.
Awesome insight.
Yep. Yeah, give or take one of those. If you see like a VP role posted for 8+ years, sometimes, and you're only 7, that's fine. But if you're right out of school, like a recent college grad, you want to look for analysts. Those are our analyst roles. So it goes analyst, associate, senior associate, VP, EDMD. So, 2 years, 3 years under analyst and associate level, I would say.
Awesome. Great insight there. So here's what I'm going to ask for everyone else that has their hand raised. I'm going to ask you to put your question in the chat in the case that we don't get to it live, but we still want to see if we can answer it. Maybe it's offline. But
can I ask that question?
I'm sorry. We actually have folks that have their hands up in order, so I'm trying to go by the order that folks have their hands raised. But you can ask your question in the chat. You can do that. Okay, so Besaya, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but if you'd like to go ahead and ask your question, and then everyone else that has their hand raised, please drop your question in the chat for us.
Okay, thank you. Yes, my name is BCA. So you were close with the pronunciation, very, very close. I'm impressed. I have a content creation and strategy background. My question is centered around my degree. So I started out in public health and I was recruited as the VP for a national association, and that involved a ton of marketing experience. So I had to do event marketing and content creation and strategy, branding strategy as well. So my degree is in public health, but I have 3 years of marketing experience. And I wanted to know, how much do you weigh that educational background in your applications?
Great question.
I'm a psychology major, so I would say that college is more about learning different things and having experience. There's nothing that you're going to learn in college is going to answer all of your questions in a role or a job. So college and your degree type does not really determine where your future should lay.
Thank you.
Awesome. Excellent. So for respect for time, we're at the 7:30 hour. I try to get a few more questions in there. So I know some folks are going to have to drop off of the call, but we may have an opportunity to answer some more questions. We'll kind of play that by ear. But before everyone kind of drops off, let me bring up, and if you have your hand raised, go ahead and leave it raised for the moment, but do drop your question in the chat. But let me bring my slides back up quickly. And let's talk about next steps so that everyone can get these next steps before we actually head out. So points of contact, I've already introduced Michelle, Audrey, and Shelly, but we're also sharing their contact information with you. My recommendation would be that if you see a role that you're interested in, apply for it and then reach out, but maybe if you have questions that are specific to that role, that kind of thing, I think it's fine to reach out. But Michelle, I wanted to hand it over to you to kind of set expectations for what should happen post-event.
Right, so we set up a link specific for everyone on this call today to create a career profile if you haven't already, and submit your resume through the posting link that is provided. Shelly, Audrey, and I will go through everyone. We are going to review, we'll get back to you, we'll be transparent. If you don't have marketing experience or don't fit in that area, we will share your resumes with our colleagues that support. The bank is huge, and we do have a lot of recruiting teams, but we'll make sure to get you to the right person and try our best to get you in front of them. So feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn, and we'll definitely, get in touch with you either way and help direct you best we can through the process here.
And
excellent. So
I'm going to put the requisition number in the chat for you guys here in 1 second. It won't let me post the link, but if you guys type in this number, it'll bring you to our networking event that you guys can apply to, and then we can have your resume on file.
yeah, and I think the link that I posted will automatically redirect to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully. It wouldn't let me post it.
So this should let's see here.
Does it take it to you? Are you testing it?
I just tested it out, and it goes to the link for HBCU Connect and JPMorgan Chase, February 15th virtual networking event.
Okay.
Is that the correct? Okay,
Yeah.
so that the vanity URL we created, so it's hbcuconnect.com/JPMC. If you want to use that link, you can jump directly into the requisition that was set up specifically for folks from this event to submit their information, and then for the JPMorgan Chase to review that. But also, we have received your resumes if you registered for this event through us, and we will share your resumes with the JPMorgan Chase team. But I wanted to thank everyone. So I want to do, there's one thing I like to do before we close out these events, and that is get a screenshot of your smiling faces. So if you're in a place where you can turn on your video and you're okay with that, if you'd like to turn on your video, we'd love to get a screenshot of everyone before we head out. So let me turn off the spotlight for everyone.
Hey, Will.
Yes, sir.
I wrote you some time back and you didn't respond on LinkedIn.
Yep. So how, if you have a question directly for me, we can, once we close out the event, I'll stay on and you can ask that question.
So what I'm saying is that is this role applicable to countries other than the US?
Are there any roles that are outside of the US, Michelle?
Yeah, the role, is it applicable to?
We recruit domestically, this team here, but if there's an opportunity that you're interested in another country, all we need is the requisition number, which will start with 2103, and we can look it up and send it to the recruiters in those countries.
Right. And so if you're asking about the specific role that was set up for this event, then that is for this event. So if you're attending this event, you can feel free to submit your resume to that role. All right. So Luisa, if you're ready to take screenshots, folks, if you want to turn on your video feed, we'd like to go ahead and get a screenshot of your smiling faces. And then if anyone wants to hang on, and if you had like some question, for me, I'll stay on after the event is over. If there are any JPMorgan Chase folks that have time to stay on as well, I'll invite you all to hang around for a few more minutes, and then we'll close out. But let's go ahead and get a screenshot. So if you guys would like to say cheese, and Luisa, I'll let you do the honors of taking the screenshot. Let me know.
Yep, no worries.
All right. So let me be the first to thank everyone. First of all, to the JPMorgan Chase team, for you all so graciously volunteering your time to share your experiences with our candidates. And to our candidates, let me thank you all for taking the time out to come and learn more about JPMorgan Chase and their opportunities. I implore you to definitely follow up. Look for an email from us with those instructions, or us reiterating those instructions. But let me thank you, just for coming, right? Because if you all don't come or you don't show interest, then we can't have events like this. And by you all coming and showing interest means we can continue to perpetuate this for those that come behind you that will be looking for opportunities with great companies like JPMorgan Chase. So thanks for being a part of that and taking the time out to come and learn and listen to the folks at JPMorgan Chase. So with that, I'm going to officially stop recording. Where is the stop record button? Oh, there it is.